The following is a production of Frank DeFreitas and the Internet Museum of Holography.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this stage we introduce the subject himself. He is, as you will perceive, fit and well nourished. He comes straight from a night's sleep and a good breakfast, undrugged, unhypnotized. Tomorrow we send him out with confidence into the world again.
Hello, this is Frank DeFreitas, and welcome to HoloTalk, the Internet's laser and holography talk show. Our toll-free number is 1-800-458-3525, or you can send an email to holotalk@holoworld.com. We've got telephone calls, we've got emails, we've got special guests coming up, so thank you for tuning in, and let's get this week's show on the road. Hello, folks, and welcome to another week of HoloTalk. This is Frank DeFreitas. I want to wish you a Happy New Year. Our guest tonight is Alex Cheimets from a company called 3 Deep Company, and Alex is a importer of the new Russian emulsions. We're going to be speaking with him about that a little bit later on. I'm also going to be going over some of the technical information about these emulsions after we do that interview. Our musical guest this week is a band called Cigar, and they're out of Eugene, Oregon, so we'll be hearing from Cigar a little bit later on as well. We got a few email questions this week. Let's go to our first one. This is from Allison, and Allison writes to HoloTalk. She says, I'd love to start doing holograms, but I live in a small apartment. Could you tell me how much space I would need, and do I need a dark room? Okay, Allison, space is not too much of a problem with holography. I remember doing holograms in very small setups, and actually, if you're going to start out doing very simple holograms, you don't need one of the big isolation tables that you see in the labs across the country. Remember, when you're doing a single beam reflection hologram, and that's what most holographers do when they start out doing holography, or just single beam holograms, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of this, but you do not need to have the laser isolated. The laser can be sitting on any tabletop or anything that you want to sit it on just as is. What you need to have isolated for a single beam reflection hologram is the plate holder and the object being recorded. So considering the fact that if you've got a 5 or 10 milliwatt laser to start out, you're probably going to be working with plate sizes that are about 2.5 by 2.5 inches or 4 by 5 inches. The only space requirements you would need to do that hologram would be enough space to have that plate holder, however you want to set that up, and the object isolated. Now, there's a few different ways that you can do this. You can get a very small inner tube, not the type of inner tubes from a car, but the type of inner tube that comes from a forklift truck, and you can find them at any industrial supplier. And they're tiny little tires. They're maybe about 1 foot or 18 inches in diameter. And on top of that little tire, you can place a heavy object. Now, there's a couple different ways you can approach this. You can get a piece of metal, a metal surface that you can sit down on that actually has a lot of weight itself, or you can choose something like a large patio block. I think there's 24 by 24 inch patio blocks that you could sit down on top of that tire table. This is going to give you your vibration isolation that you're going to need just for the plate holder and the object itself. On top of that surface, you need to place whatever plate holder you've managed to make for yourself and the object itself. Make sure that both of these things are stable. That is, you need a nice stable object. You can't pick something flimsy, because even with the best holographic setup, if you've got a flimsy object, you're going to get poor results in the final hologram. Make sure your object is very stable, and just go ahead and do your exposure. Your laser and your beam expanding lens itself does not have to be on that isolation part of the setup. It can be sitting anywhere that you want it to sit. In fact, if you want to, just do it right down on the floor. Now, as far as a dark room, I know a lot of people that use their bathrooms for dark rooms. This has good and bad things to go along with it. The good thing is It's right there. It's handy. You don't have to go up or down a flight of steps. If, say, for instance, you're going to do your development down in the basement of the apartment building or something like that. You don't have to do that because you have your bathroom right there. The only thing I get concerned about sometimes is actually ventilation. Now, keep in mind, this is not photography. This is holography. You're not going to be going into a dark room and making 36 or 72 prints. You're just not going to do that with holograms. Usually you'll set up and do 1, 2, maybe 3 holograms a night, and you've got time in between those 2 because you have to go back out of the dark room again to do your next setup. Now, I would suggest that if you have a small window, get a window fan. And the way that you're going to get around having light come in is I want you to make a hood to go over the outside of that small window fan. Now, we don't need a big window fan. We just need a small one. And make a hood so that it sort of caps that fan, and the only way that the air can get out from the fan as an exhaust is through the bottom of that hood. Now, if you have screens, I would suggest that you double up on the screens. Take your screens, which are normally a silverish material, and spray paint them a flat black. And you're going to spray paint 2 screens. Put one of the screens in the window, and then put the other screen in the window. And if they're slightly offset, you're not going to see any light coming through because of the obvious small openings in the screen to begin with, along with the black paint and the hood that you have on your fan. So this will give you a little bit of ventilation, but I don't think you have too much of a problem just being in there to develop a hologram, especially if you're using your traditional type of development chemicals like your D19s and things of that nature. So yes, you can do holograms in an apartment very easily, and if you find that you want to make holograms that are a little bit more complex than your single beam holograms, you can move up to a few of the systems that you can buy that sit on the neoprene isolation balls that you can buy. So there's all kinds of ways of doing it. You don't have to not do holography just because you live in an apartment. Our second email question comes from Chris, and Chris writes in, and this is a very interesting question. I wonder how many HoloTalk listeners could answer this question. What was the first hologram made of? And I'm assuming, Chris, you mean made of as far as an image, the content of the hologram, rather than the materials that the hologram was shot on. The early holograms, even the first hologram, was made without using a laser. A sodium vapor lamp was used to make the first hologram. Sodium vapor lamps are just like those lamps when you're driving down the street at night. They illuminate the street. And these lights do not contain the entire range of the visible spectrum as far as wavelengths are concerned, and they can be, through careful filtering, filtered down to be a monochromatic light source. However, the problem with using something like that for a hologram is there's another property that's needed to make a hologram, and that is called coherence length. And it is the coherence length, this property, that allows us to record the depth of a hologram. Now, the coherence length of a sodium vapor lamp is very short, extremely short. In fact, the first hologram could only record the depth of a postage stamp. And that first hologram was actually something about the size of a postage stamp, and it had the names of several physicists on it. So it wasn't actually a true three-dimensional image, although it contained the third dimension enough to show the depth of that piece of paper or postage stamp size material. But it wasn't anything that you would walk into a museum and say, wow, this is really something. So that's what the first hologram was. It was made with the sodium vapor lamp, and it was a postage size stamp which contained the names of very famous physicists. Just as a reminder, you can send in your questions to HoloTalk 2 ways. The first way is to send it in by telephone. You can call a toll-free number, and that number is 1-800-458-3525, and we'll put your question on the air. Or you can send an email to holotalk@holoworld.com. I'll read your question and answer it on the air. So if you have any questions about lasers and holograms, send them through. We'll get them on the air. And I'm sure other people that are listening have the same questions, so they'll appreciate hearing them. Our third email question actually can be tied into the interview that's coming up with Alex Cheimets. And this was sent in by Scott. And Scott wrote, I know that AGFA films and plates will not be available much longer, and I know that other companies are trying to pick up the slack, but what's really bothering me is the exposure time involved with this new film. I was looking at buying a 5 milliwatt laser to get me started with holography, but it seems now that this may not be a suitable laser for this new film. So my question is, what kind of laser would be best for the new film? Well, Scott, we're going to go over this now with Alex. We just finished the interview. Actually, it's 11:30 on Saturday night. The show goes up at 12:30, and I just finished talking with Alex at 10:30. So we just got this in right under the gun. Both of our schedules this week were nearly impossible with the New Year's Day holiday and everything tied in this week, but we still managed to pull it through for everybody. And this is an important issue because, as everyone is probably aware of on Earth, that's involved with holography, AGFA has discontinued making their materials, their holotest materials that we were so used to working with in our professional labs and in our amateur and hobbyist labs as well. So we're looking for something to take the place of AGFA. And we have some materials here that Alex is going to tell us about. It's made at a plant in Slavich, and they're looking very promising. So we'll let Alex tell us a little bit about these materials. Alex is a person who imports the materials. I have some technical information. After the interview is over, I'd like to go over some of the technical specifications of these emulsions with you, just so that you know how these emulsions compared with AGFA. I went through some of my materials here at the studio and found some of AGFA's specification sheets as well. So I'll do a one-to-one comparison from what I have on AGFA compared to the new Russian emulsions. So let's move on to our interview with Alex. 3Deep Company is the name of the company that's importing these emulsions. They have a website. It's www.3deepco.com. That's www.3deepco.com. There's also a link on the main HoloTalk page where you can go over and take a look at this website. I was over on the website, and I have to tell you, it's a wealth of information on the materials. If you're confused about this, as many people are, including myself, there's a forum that you can see where all the people have sent in their questions about these materials as far as getting better results, how to make really nice holograms with them. And other holographers who have been working with these materials for a while log on and they answer some of the questions. It's a very nice feature. So if you want to head over there, you can actually cruise that website while you're listening to the HoloTalk show itself. So let's go over and talk with Alex. I'm sending this through to you unedited and uncut because there is not enough time to work with it tonight, being that it's 11:30 already, and I really like to keep on schedule and have this up at midnight. So let's go talk to Alex. Okay, we're ready to go. Okay, we're talking to Alex Cheimets, who is with 3Deep Company. That's correct, isn't it?
That's right, 3Deep Company.
And you're involved with basically bringing these emulsions into the United States now. Is that correct?
That's true. We've been working together with Slavich for about 4 years, a little bit over 4 years.
I remember a few years ago it was either something in the mail or even a phone call from you saying that you were working with these emulsions, and we were all aware of the high-quality emulsions that were being produced in Russia, but of course nobody really paid any attention to it because you could just get a box of AGFA and go your merry way. Now, that's no longer the case, and I imagine you have quite a bit of interest in these emulsions right now.
That's right. When I first started, it was smuggling plates out of the country from a trip and calling some people such as yourself to get them tested. Mm-hmm. But it was really a hurry up and wait kind of a procedure because there's a lot of problems with changing from one emulsion to another, and I know that holographers don't want to do it if they don't have to. Mm-hmm. And as of February, they have to.
Yeah, there's not much of a choice now. I imagine anyone who's involved with mass production of plates and film already pretty much have an idea what's going on with these emulsions, but the big question lies with the school groups, the amateurs that are out there doing holography as a hobby. Now, even though these are just people that are just going to call up and order a box of plates maybe every month or every 2 months or something like that, where are we with these people? If they're in a school or they're in their basement doing holograms with maybe a 5 or a 10 milliwatt laser, will they be able to make some sort of holographic images with this emulsion?
Well, there's been some experience. It was a kid out of, I think it was Connecticut, who took some of our plates, and at that time we had very little experience working with amateurs. He had it was for one of his classes, and he bought a couple boxes, and he tried it out using chemicals from the formulary. I can't think of the full name.
Photographer's formulary. I believe they're out in one of the states like Michigan or Wisconsin or something like that, I think. And
he was able to get a number of images. It wasn't perfect. I mean, he was an amateur, and I'm not a holographer. I'm an importer, so there was little that I could offer him. But it did get me to thinking that when we put together our website, that we should, the people who are going to know the most about making holograms using the Slavich plates are the people who are using them, buying them from me, not necessarily me or Slavich, because this is a new chemical formulation that everybody's going to be using. They're not necessarily going to use the Russian chemical formulations. So we put together a discussion forum so that amateurs and professionals could get out what's been working, what's not been working, and the experiences of some amateurs are on the discussion forum. So that it has been working. It's not a straight D19 formulation that's been working the best, but some adjustments, and they put it on the site.
Can you buy prepackaged chemistry to go with these plates?
No, not as of yet. We don't supply chemistry.
Okay. Is it available anywhere that you could get it prepackaged? Because every place that I've seen, they give you the actual formulations for making your developer and things of that nature, but I haven't seen anything where it just comes maybe as a powder where you just add water.
Yeah, at this moment, I'm investigating a lab out of San Francisco called Bryant. There's also a company called Sigma. And several other companies as well. Joden, which is an old AGFA distributor out of Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan. They've had certain chemicals. I don't know that they stock all the chemicals used for the Slavich plates. Right now, there's different formulations going around. People are using and testing different formulations. I would say that at this stage, today, for amateur holography, if someone were to take some of these plates, an amateur, and try something out, he would be not necessarily breaking new ground. I mean, there's been work done, and there's been things published on the site and elsewhere, but definitely would be increasing the overall knowledge base.
I was out on your site, and it is a wealth of information as far as these new recording materials, and I think the forum is a very good idea because I spent quite a bit of time reading the different questions that were sent in, and then other holographers, they'll log on and do responses to the questions. The website address, I know you have your own domain name now, is that correct?
That's right. The website address is www.3deepco.com, or basically www.3deepco.com.
Okay, with the numerical 3.
The numerical 3.
We'll also have a link directly to your site, and if you're listening to the show right now, there's no need to just sit there and stare at the computer while it talks to you. You can go back into your browser and go right to the site as you continue to listen to the show. For my group of people, and I mostly get amateurs and educational services and things of that nature at the site, that's the majority of people that come through the site, but I imagine they would be interested in two types of the emulsions, the PFG-01 and the PFD-03M.
That's true. That's what I would guess for the helium neon users.
Yes. Now, I received a package from Slavich this week, and it does say PFG-01 is good for laser transmission and reflection holography. Is that true?
Well, there's 2 01s. There's a PFG-01, which is, as I understood it, to be transmission with pulse laser or helium neon, and then there's an 01M, which is a slight improvement. It doesn't have an anti-halation backing, and it's for transmission and reflection.
I see. And it has a greater it's actually a faster emulsion than the 03.
That's right. It is a faster emulsion.
Okay, because I've got some of AGFA's older information here from their 8E75 HD emulsions, and it appears to me that it may be possible to make reflection holograms with this -01 emulsion.
Yeah, the 01, the analog to the 01 would be the 8E75, and the 01M, the analog, would be an 8E75 HD.
Mm-hmm.
The 01Ms are not, we don't have them yet. They won't arrive until mid-January. But at the moment, we're reducing our buys of the 01 that's straight for transmission, because it looks like the 01M is really going to support just about everybody's needs. If there are special needs requiring the older type emulsion, of course, we'd be happy to pick that up on the next restocking purchase.
Okay. And from what I understand, there's no bleaching involved at all with the 03 emulsions for the reflection holograms, which I found that very fascinating.
You're getting into a technical level.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll probably cover this after the interview's over, because I have all the technical information here, and maybe we can do a little tech talk after we say goodbye, and I'll go over all these numbers with everyone.
Okay.
But that's what I find absolutely fascinating, because there was a time where you just could not do a reflection hologram without having a bleach process. It's just what the emulsion itself just wasn't efficient enough to replay that image. But with these new emulsions, there's no bleaching step at all. Anything else you want to let the listeners know about your services and how they can contact you and order some of these? I understand you may have a little test package that you can send out to someone if they'd like to order that. Is that true?
Well, it's actually all the packaging on these Slavich plates are very amateur friendly. They're small. They're small boxes. So if there was an interest in 2.5 by 2.5 inch plates, well, they're packed 6 to a plate.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4x5 plates are packed 4 to a plate. We have a special going on now for first-time buyers, and it's really the special's only for the 4x5 plates, but it's quite good for the PFG 03M plates, which is for the helium neon. One of the sets for the helium neon. We offer 4 plates for U.S. orders, $20.
Mm-hmm.
Plus $5 shipping. For Canadian orders, it's $20 plus $8 shipping.
They 2.5 plates or 4x5?
These are for 4x5.
Okay.
And it's only, it's only a little bit more than the 2.5 by 2.5.
Mm-hmm. And that's right where AGFA was.
Right. That was what we were trying to do. Right now, pricing is all over the place, and the Russians are learning their new cost structure too as their prices rise and fall with their changing economy. So it's been difficult, and I think one of the advantages that it is for U.S., American, and I guess international holographers having 3D around is that we balance out all of the changing problems and demands and situation in Russia by keeping inventory in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And by keeping the prices steady.
Can they order chemistry through you? I don't know if you said that or not.
No, at this stage, no.
Okay.
No chemistry.
All right, so we'll look into the chemical supplier for this also while we're doing the show tonight. Okay, well, Alex, I know you have to run. You're going out for dinner. I hope you enjoy it. And I'm glad we were able to get in touch with one another.
Oh, yeah.
Right at the last moment, folks. It's 10:30 on Saturday night. The show goes up at midnight, so I don't think we could get any closer than this.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to say one more thing. I mean, just the whole thing since February has been very exciting. And not that I wanted to, I'm happy that holographers have the best plates out there and that they're using something that's familiar, but since AGFA has decided to pull out, there has been, I mean, for 3D, there's been so many changes. We put on the website, we got credit card acceptance, so we can take credit card orders.
That's great.
People from around the world are looking to try it out. So, and they've been happy. I mean, we've gotten not just the first order, but we're getting the second order. So I think that the Slavich plates are going to turn out to be, not second runs, but I think opening up a whole new level of art and a whole new level of resolution. And it's going to change the way holography works in the future.
Well, I want to wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thanks for calling.
And thanks for being on the show.
Great.
Alex, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right, bye-bye. Okay, we're back in the studio. Let me just get situated with all the papers that I have all over here and see if we can't go over some of the technical specifications here. What should I read? Let's see. Introduction. Let's just read a quick introduction on the company itself. The company Slavich JS Company. situated at, oh, good luck. Well, they are 130 kilometers from Moscow. Let's just put it that way. It's currently a leading manufacturer of photographic plates for the microelectronics industry, conventional photographic papers, and of audio and video tapes. In addition to these products, Slavich has been producing for many years high-quality holographic materials. The production of photographic plates and of the holographic materials is carried out in facilities located in the Micron plant, a Slavich subsidiary enterprise. The Micron plant produces holographic materials on hard glass and flexible film bases. A list and brief description of these materials are presented below in Table 1. Okay, so I have some material here which goes back to the AGFA materials. Let's take a look at how these things line up with one another. Now, in the interview, Alex mentioned the PFG-01. Now, on my sheet here, it says it's a fine-grained, red-sensitive, holographic plate and film designed for transmission or reflection hologram recording. Average grain size is 40 nanometers. Resolving power more than 3,000 lines per millimeter. And the spectral sensitivity range is from 600 to 680 nanometers, with the peaks at 633, which is our helium neon line, and 647. Now, let's move down to AGFA. And I'm going to look here now at 8E75HD, which was the recording material of choice for reflection holography with AGFA materials. Now, this is just a chart, so there's no text with it. So, grain size, 35 nanometers. 35 nanometers. Now, the grain size with the Slavich plates, 40 nanometers. Not too much of a difference there. 35 for the AGFA, 40 for the Slavich. Resolving lines per millimeter, 5,000 lines per millimeter for AGFA. For Slavich, resolving power, more than 3,000 lines per millimeter. Now, will it be possible to do reflection holograms with these plates? Now, Alex had mentioned a PFG-01M, which is going to be close to the sensitivity of the AGFA materials. Let's move on to the PFG-03M with Slavich. Ultra-fine grain, red-sensitive plates and film designed for reflection hologram recording. Average grain size is 8 to 12 nanometers. That's small. Resolving power more than 5,000 lines per millimeter. And the spectral sensitivity range includes 633 nanometers, 647 nanometers as well. Now, this is where we run into the sensitivity issue, and that is that the emulsion actually has to be exposed for quite a bit more time than with the AGFA plates. So let's go through here and see what we have here. Okay, we have the processing. The diffraction efficiency for the PFG-03M is greater than 45%. That's incredible. So if these are done correctly, you can expect to get very bright holograms from them. Very bright holograms. So that's how they compare, side-to-side comparison. So the PFG-01, the holographic materials that they're saying can be used for both transmission and reflection hologram recording seem to be very close to where the AGFA 8E75HD is that we're all familiar with. It's the PFG-03M emulsion, which is going to need quite a bit of a hit from the light source in order to get good results. So there we have it. Okay, so that just about wraps it up for another show. I hope between the show and if you traveled over to the 3 Deep Company website that you've had a few of your questions answered concerning these new recording materials that we have to work with. Our entertainment this week, for your listening pleasure, is a band called Cigar out of Eugene, Oregon. And if you go back to the HoloTalk page, you'll see the link to listen to them if you choose to listen to them. They do come through at 28.8, so that's a 28.8 recording in Real Audio 5.0. So if you do not have Real Audio 5.0, this show probably will not work for you. So I want to thank you for tuning in, and I hope you stop back next week. This is Frank DeFreitas for HoloTalk. Have a great week, and Happy New Year.